All right, so I think that we are live right now. Hi, everyone. My name is Pawel Scheffler, and I will be the host of this hopefully great event. First things first, let us know if everything runs smoothly when it comes to audio and video. Give us a notice on the chat on the right side of the screen. And okay, meanwhile, I can tell you, all of you, maybe just a bit about me and my guests, and we will get straight into the content of the webinar. So, my name is Pawel Scheffler, and I will be the host of this hopefully great event. I am inbound marketing manager at Solid Studio. We are a software house that produces crafted IT solutions, mainly for the e-mobility sector. Although our field is software, today's webinar will explore also or mainly the legal aspects of cross-border EV charging infrastructure development. Our two experts in e-mobility, Michel Bayings from EVRoaming Foundation and Pawel Gora from NEXITY, will discuss directives and state legislations. Hi, guys. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. So could you tell our audience just a bit about yourselves and your background? Michel, you can start.
Yes. Thank you very much, Pawel. Michel Bayings, working indeed for the EVRoaming Foundation as one of the advisors, but also managing the daily activities. Since 2008, involved in electric mobility, also evaluator for the EU smart city proposals and for the EVRoaming Foundation. And it might be good to know the EVRoaming Foundation is an international global foundation set up, officially started last year, set up to support roaming accessibility of charging networks across the globe, actually. So by using standards, but also looking at legislation, compliancy, and finally for the EV driver to ensure that they can drive across countries and between countries.
All right, great. Your turn, Pawel. Oh, unfortunately, I can't hear you right now.
We can't hear you, I think.
We can't hear you right now, Pawel. You have this mic option on the top of the screen. Should be on instead of off, if it helps you. No. Or you can also rejoin the session from the host link, and maybe it will change something. I think that it can help. Maybe something just has been bugged.
You can test everything, but then still.
Yeah, it's still the live. It's still the live event. So yeah. Hail the live events. All right. So yeah, maybe we can get through the agenda part. Meanwhile, I really hope that Pawel will join us just in a moment. And this is today's agenda. So we will get through the several topics that you can see right here on the screen. Pawel, can we hear you?
Hello, excuse me.
Yeah, great. Yes, great. So sorry for just taking people to another part of our presentation, but I was just waiting for you to get through these audio problems. I can hear you perfectly well, so I think that our
hello, is everything okay right now?
Yeah,
perfectly fine. So
great.
Yeah.
Sorry for interruptions. I had some problems with my mic. It's a little bit surprising because everything was okay like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's a live event, so don't worry about this.
Definitely. So as Pawel said, I'm Pawel Gora. I am attorney at law, head of legal department in the NEXITY. NEXITY is EV charging company with registered seat in Poland. I've spent last couple of years in e-mobility sector advising companies, including NEXITY, who conducts business activity in this area, in the area of electromobility. And I'm very glad and happy to tell you some about recent and future changes in European electromobility during this webinar.
Great. Yeah, thank you for this, and thank you for this part. So I think that we can get straight into the agenda part, and the first part of this agenda is the question for you, Michael. So could you tell us just a bit about the status of e-mobility in European Union, now reaching mid-2021, how it looks like, for example, in comparison with 2020 and this whole COVID crisis?
Yeah. Well, it is an interesting question because it is always hard to really get the latest figures. But I think in general, in the electric mobility part, there are, for these kind of overviews, you need to split it into things. One is how are the electric vehicle car sales doing? And of course, you can split that also between buses and trucks and passenger cars in general. The other part is the charging infrastructure. And in general, you can say that currently the electric vehicle sales, new sales, is going very well. I think better than expected. And that's also one of the challenges that we face from the other side, because on the charging infrastructure side, everyone is doing their best, but it is hard to catch up with the amount of vehicles coming in. So also a lot of new models. That's very good. We didn't see, or we don't see anymore, the concrete effect of COVID. We saw that last year. We could also register that via the amount of charging sessions, because at a certain moment, everyone stayed at home, worked from home. So we saw a drop directly, which was actually quite large. I think 20-30% of the energy usage. The same for the old-fashioned fuel vehicles. I mean, no one needed fuel anymore because everyone worked from home. So that was definitely an effect. But currently we see in the most recent statistics that also that the amount of energy used is getting a bit back to normal. So in general, the progress is good. You still see a lot of differences in different countries. And I think that's one of the European concerns that we have, both on electric vehicle sales side, but also on the charging infrastructure side.
All right. Have you noticed any particular countries that noted a boost when it comes to the growth of EU market within this year and a half?
Yeah, we see that definitely. It are almost the most obvious countries. I mean, Norway, of course, is one of the leading countries, especially on electric vehicles. I mean, on charging infrastructure, Norway is not leading. There you see that Netherlands is leading. But we see definitely there that countries like Iceland, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, they are really doing great. Also, Germany and France are doing very good. On the lower side, we see that the sales are a bit lacking. When we look at countries like Greece, Czech Republic, but also, to be honest, Poland is not yet really on the move. So there are definitely countries who could take advantage of their current situation and what happened before the COVID period. But the good thing is, I think that I see from the European Union and European Commission that now they will really focus on the countries that are lagging behind a bit. So from that point of view, it's definitely positive that movement is going on.
All right, thank you for this answer. That's very informative. And Pavel, this is the question for you. And when it comes to EU directives, what updates can be expected during next few months or next year?
Oh, it's a very wide question, so maybe we'll
Every question is
start.
wide during this discussion, so sorry
Yes,
for
I
that.
believe so. Okay, so we should start with Commission's Green New Deal, which was issued on May 2027, I believe, in recent year. It is, as you know, a long-term recovery strategy because everyone, especially in Europe, but also in the whole world, was harmed and touched by a crisis caused by COVID outbreak. So commissions prepared and issued this Green New Deal. And first of all, the biggest today's goal for Europe is to become a climate neutral continent by 2050. And European Commission, European Parliament is performing many activities and will perform in the nearest future to get this goal, to achieve this target. Especially Commission of Europe, European Commission, to achieve this target will announce a new legislative proposal in the coming year. Many of them will, of course, target mobility and especially will concern benefits for EV users or CPOs, charge point operators, and more restrictions which can and will relate to automotive concerns to developers. And it can also be seen in current legislation in both European and member states legislation. And maybe when it comes to regulations, we must say that in the field of electromobility and related sectors, there are plenty of examples of new, recent, and upcoming legislation. And most important which is now, is so-called the Clean Energy Package, which includes a set of updated and ongoing regulations, including especially review of European Union taxonomy system, energy performance of building directive, which especially touches developers, the renewable energy directive, and market design directive and regulation on energy efficiency. Maybe I will provide you with some more detailed information about those directives and regulations, so everyone will have a little bit more knowledge about what's going on and what changes in the nearest future will occur. First of all, the European Union taxonomy system is changing, and it's a classification system which consists and establishes a list of environmentally sustainable economic activities. And it's a very important system because it's enabled to scale up sustainable investments and help implementing this European Green Deal. And with new and recent classification, consists some provisions which enables operators to get and to provide with financing to the companies, to entities which really needs this financing to make some sustainable investments. Another very important directive which is currently changing and shaping is the Energy Efficiency Directive. It's an old directive because it dates back to 2009 when main reason to appoint that appoint this directive was to reduce CO2 emission from new vehicles. The last version was passed by the parliament in 2019, and these regulations require to lower CO2 emission from new cars in 2030 to lower them by like 37.5% than targets for 2021. For new vans, the reduction target would be also high. It will be 31%. So in the nearest 9 years, this reduction will take like 1/3 of the emission, which is now. In June 2021, so it's happening right now, the European Commission will present a proposal to revise these targets and raise them. But they will need, and I believe they will meet the support of European Parliament, because European Parliament, as you know, is now very much in favor of ambitious climate targets in the current term, because as it was aforesaid, up to 2015, we'll have no emission system in the European Union. And it's very interesting how the member states are today react to this directive, because some of member states are very clear in the favor of the rapid decarbonization of road transport, especially Norway, but not only Norway, but also a lot of more member states. For example, in March this year, there was filed a joint open letter to European Commission, which demands ban of the registration of combustion vehicles up before 2030. This letter was prepared by a group of 9 member states, so we may assume that these states declares that nevertheless, even if European Commission won't ban this registration of combustion vehicles, they will probably do that and perform some measures and activities to ban this registration. And to the group of these member states, this group includes Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Greece, Netherlands, Malta, Ireland, Lithuania, and Luxembourg. Moreover, even if in this group there is no Germany, the experience so far shows that the Germany will also play a key role in the European Council, because they are recently very, very cautious about raising the bar for vehicle manufacturers. We may see direct cars from Volkswagen Group. It's the largest car manufacturer in Europe. And it may mean that Germany will finally stop acting as a brake and support a more ambitious policy to reduce vehicle emission. There is also a RED directive, it's Renewable Energy Directive. And by today, it must be stated that a majority of European Union member countries have not incentivized the use of electricity as fuel in the same way as they do with, for instance, biofuels. Even despite that, obviously, electricity is the cleanest alternative to oil and it's even cleaner than biofuels. And this directive was refreshed and offers a chance to move away from the biofuels to cleaner fuels. This creation of a credit system would, and I believe will, help in increasing the rise of renewable fuels, since this electricity requires a separate infrastructure to be introduced to the market, and everyone needs a little bit financing to implement that. And it is important that also by the end of this month, by the end of June 2021, expires a deadline for transposition of this directive in the member countries. So this is happening now. I believe that I have to pass a little bit voice to my colleague, to Michael. As I said, it's a very wide question, so I will just, for instance, tell that there are also, to end this topic, there is also energy performance of the buildings directive, which obligates new buildings and the buildings undergoing major renovations to either install charging stations or ensure the installation of ducting infrastructure in parking spaces. So it also helps growth of electromobility. There is also, it will be last directive about which I will be talking now. There is also a battery directive, which is very important for EV, for electromobility, for its growth, because in December 2020, European Union proposed the revision of this directive to set the highest standards in the world for the acquisitions of raw materials from which batteries come, and the recycling of used batteries, especially car ones. And it will help us, help the whole Europe to be self-efficient, because right now we have a little problem with getting and importing lithium, cobalt, nickel, which are required for EV battery production. And by 2030, which is the target which was proposed, battery production will be mainly obtained from the recycled European EV batteries. So it's a huge boost. Finally, to end this topic, referring to the legislation which committed the European Union to climate neutrality by 2050, European Commission proposed to increase the 2030 greenhouse gas reduction target to 55%. So all the policies, all the European Union directives, activities are very crucial for the growth of electromobility, and I believe they will help us to have a cleaner planet. Thank you.
All right, so yeah, probably, as you know, a lot of things is going on in the EU, just as you said, from the legal point of view. Michael, maybe, yeah, you want to tell?
Yeah, well,
you want to add something?
Maybe to add indeed one or two points, because
yes,
in my opinion, there are two important things. Like Pawel said, you have the legislation, which is definitely focused on stimulation and support of electric mobility, like the legislation regarding buildings, parkings, etc. Because for those requirements will definitely solve several issues. And ensure that you have the right, for example, to get charging infrastructure in parking garages, etc., for buildings, that it is prepared. On the other side, we see huge influence, which will come from the revised alternative fuel directive, that will come in 2023. And actually, the whole market is busy with that. The good thing is, from one point of view, that it will be more strict in a way that the first alternative fuel directive, they gave too much room for different implementations. This will be more strict. The counter side that I see is that if the changes are too big, it will also not support all the new infrastructure which is needed. I mean, currently, we talk about approximately 150,000 new charging points that need to be installed every year to meet targets. So we talk about 3,000 chargers per week at least to meet the target. So I hope, but the whole market is busy with that alternative fuel directive because it contains a lot of different aspects. And like Pawel said, this is a very wide subject legislation. But I hope that it will be more strict, and we are also part of that via the EVRoaming Foundation, but also in all kind of other ways. That it will indeed help the market. But it's definitely one of the things to keep an eye on, the developments which are going on there.
Yeah, great addition to the answer of Pawel. Thank you for this, Michael.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, so Michael, another question is for you. When it comes to the network fees and the network development, can we witness something that could be called road to unification in this field?
It's an interesting question.
Thank you.
I have indeed. I mean, if you see currently how networks are connected, and we have a lot of different networks across Europe, then there is indeed a challenge. One of them is indeed based on the fees, because you have different ways. You can make use of roaming hubs like Jureva, Hubject, eClearing. You can do it peer-to-peer. You need to connect an operator with service providers to ensure that the service providers get access to the networks and finally the EV drivers. And there are all kinds of arrangements there. To be honest, I don't expect that on the fees there will be much regulation. I do hope and do currently already see that because of the competition, the fees will not raise extremely. But it is a complicated market, and so from that point of view, unification will be done, but I don't expect it directly on the fees, because finally that is also up to the market. As EV driver, you have the choice to choose your own service provider. As service provider, you have the choice to choose the different operators. But of course, I mean, it's a big market with a lot of money involved where companies make choices. So I do see that the next networks connect to each other, but in the concrete fees that you need to pay, for example, to roaming up or to a service provider or the service provider to an operator, I don't expect that there will be much of registration from the EU side.
All right, so it's more like the free market than the strict regulations and the strict legislation when it comes to this.
I mean, it would be good, and that's maybe an interesting view, that if the consumer authorities would keep an eye on it. And I mean, there are in all countries and also by the EU, there are authorities who look at to ensure honest competition.
Yes.
And I think that's an important role. And maybe Pawel knows something about it, but in my opinion, that role is not yet taken or not yet managed, or they don't take that role yet. I mean, we in all countries, I think we have those kind of organizations who support equal and valid and an open market. And I think it would be good if those type of organizations would be more proactive in this, because there are definitely threats. I mean, if we look at the current developments via the car industry, like I'm using the 15.11.8 protocol, which is a possibility that via the car you can directly connect to networks. In itself, it's not a bad development, but if it would exclude certain service providers or other parts of the market, then you get an issue. And
Yeah.
I do hope that from that point of view, I don't think that the fees need to be regulated, but I hope that the authorities will start being more, well, not controlling it, but keep an eye on it and assure that an open and valid or equal competition landscape will be there. And that's actually what could help in this.
All right. Yeah. I can agree with the most of things that you said. Definitely. Yeah. But another question I would love to ask, and this is for both of you guys, and but mainly because we talked a bit about the European Union perspective and this legislation. I would love to know more about the perspective of the operators, and from their point of view, what regulations can soon arise within the next months, years, what they can expect. Do you have any idea about this, or do you know something about this you want to share with our audience with?
Yeah, well, I think regarding the operators, I mean, the biggest regulations that is a bit also what Pawel mentioned earlier. I think, I mean, tax regulations is definitely a hot topic which will influence them, which was actually also something where for a long time we were not really involved in it. I think at this moment, countries unite there and talk more or less with one vote or work together in that. The alternative fuel directive, which will have impact. We work together with a lot of companies in the Sustainable Transport Forum, where the EU is thinking about the legislation, about certain data formats, those kind of things. So there are things which will definitely have impact on the operator, and which might influence also the way they work. I mean, if I currently see, for example, that you need to offer ad hoc charging, so that means the ability to charge without a subscription card, those kind of activities will influence it. There is another movement where you see that companies will use, or that countries will demand certain displays or certain information that need to be shared with EV drivers. Well, that's quite often it's either shared directly or via the service providers. So there's a lot of things which are coming to the operators, which will influence their work. And yeah, I mean, we all need to catch up with the legislation, but also with improved and updated protocols and connection types. So yeah, I expect a lot of developments there, and I'm not sure if everything will directly be an improvement. Because also, to be honest, for a long time, we as markets did not have maybe always the right focus. And then you see that the EU, for example, takes the lead and says, well, we need to share data via national access points. And that means that simply requires that all operators needs to open their networks and share all the public and semi-public infrastructure information towards the national access point. So you see these kind of movements going on, and that will have impact on the way operators work.
All right. Yeah. And Pawel, do you have anything to add in this aspect?
Oh. We don't hear you anymore, Pawel.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, Pawel will probably rejoin us soon, probably in 15-20 seconds. I see the first questions in our Q&A tab right now, but guys, just wait for the moment. And yeah, Yeah, we hear you. And just for the for our audience, just guys, wait for the moment, and we will answer all of these questions in the last
Hello?
part of the event. Yeah, we hear you well, Pavel. Do you hear us? Oh, you can have some issues with the sound right now. Probably you can't hear us right now. Maybe one more time. Sorry for these inconveniences, but yeah, I'm doing my best.
Yeah. Murphy's Law sometimes.
At least I try.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, we have some things to cover still. So hopefully Pavel will rejoin us with the sound and the video. Do you hear us, Pavel, right now?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm really sorry. Technical issues.
yeah,
Can't prevent them.
yeah. Just pretend that it didn't happen at all, and we are
Yes.
right. Yeah, we are right back, and let's get back into the question that I asked to Michael when it comes to the regulations that can soon arise and that can affect the operators. Do you have anything extra to add to the Michael's answer?
Yes, definitely, because it's another wide problem and wide question. But I think I will come out with one very important regulation, which I believe will soon arise. First of all, it must be stated that regulations which regards EV charging infrastructure and electromobility must respond to the real problems which are faced currently by electric vehicle owners and CPOs and EMPs. And among other areas of law, I believe that especially crucial and urgent for the development of European single market for EV charging infrastructure may be considered the VAT law, the VAT directive, particularly when it comes to cross-border transactions, to roaming, e-roaming. The industry is currently confronted with many uncertainties regarding the correct interpretation of European Union, especially VAT directive and national VAT laws. Furthermore, the existing VAT regime has turned out to be a major obstacle to the development of this integrated European charging infrastructure market, because currently there is a big issue that EV charging can be seen either as a supply of a goods, especially electricity, or as a supply of a service in terms of VAT. This distinction is very important because VAT directive and after that national VAT laws foresees different rules for supplies of goods and supplies of services when it comes to the determination of the place where the transaction is taxable. Of course, there are some guidelines which were issued by European Commission in 2019 on this subject. They were issued on request of Italy and France. However, they are not transported to directive or to national law. And now, according to these guidelines, CPO should be regarded, when it comes to e-roaming, as supplier of electricity in the meaning of this VAT directive. And they clarified that from the point of view of European Union Commission, roaming is in their point of view, CPO, while e-roaming services, is making a supply of electricity to the EMP, who in turn makes a supply of the same electricity to EV driver. However, it's only the view of European Commission. It's not hard law, and some member states don't comply with this statement, and we are having issue where it is regarded as supply of services, performing services. And it's a big problem for this unification of the market. And I believe that VAT committee, which is making a new VAT directive, it should be and now is scheduled to reconvene around the legal opinion of the Commission. And they will decide in this directive either Commission's guidelines are right and they will be transported into the directive, and then all the member states will and must comply with this directive. However, now there is no binding guidelines, no binding regulations, and we are having big trouble with this. And this problem regarding VAT and its complexity lead to a situation where most industry members are reluctant to offer charging services in other member states. It's a big issue, and I believe it will be changed in upcoming years.
All right, that's a quite interesting point of view and the status of this that you've presented to us. Thank you for this very much, Pawel. And yeah, and maybe the last question for both of you guys. When it comes to open network across Europe, what is an optimistic and realistic scenario of forming this one? But in European Union, do you have any scenarios in your head that you can share with us, Michael?
Yeah, I'm actually quite optimistic. But I maybe also, I want to be optimistic, and so from that point of view, it's quite logic. But I think, we are not there yet. So let me be clear about that. But we are working very hard, and that means we is the whole market, so the whole ecosystem, companies, market companies, but also governments. We are all working very hard to achieve and to support an open, more or better network with the right information to EV drivers, but also possibility for competition, possibility to earn money, connectivity. So that's that combination, actually, what we talk about here. There are things that need to improve and that we need to solve. But we are working on that. If I currently look where we are now, and the fact that where in the past I needed 8 or more different cards and tokens to charge my vehicle across Europe, now I can do it with 2. So it is definitely improving. Networks are connected more to each other. They talk to each other in different standardization bodies, but also regarding the legislation, they definitely work together more and more. And what I said, we are not there yet. By the way, also, and I think that's also an important actor, which was quite often forgotten, but now we work together with those organizations, are the communities of EV drivers. Definitely an important stakeholder. Finally, that's what the group we do it for. And we see that we really work together there. So yeah, I'm positive that in the next years, also together with the EU, we all talk to each other now, and I think that's a big achievement. We don't talk about each other, but with each other, and that's on different levels. So yeah, the only thing I hope, and that's a bit the concern, is that not only the main countries, so not only Netherlands and France and Germany, but also the other countries. It would be great if also the countries like Poland, like Czech Republic, etc., also they could catch up and can join and can participate. And I know that from the EU also with their CEF funding mechanisms, they do focus now also on those countries to support the network. So they really look at the gaps where infrastructure is not yet good enough in place, or where more needs to be added. And that way we can really ensure that it will be a real covering network and not only from a few countries. So yeah, I think, but again, I mean, we have huge targets. We have huge challenges ahead. The biggest challenges might be the ability to install enough charging infrastructure. I mean, don't underestimate that. If you need to install a few thousand chargers per week in countries, it can be real challenges. But we get there. And now, I mean, the next steps for us are looking at buses, at trucks, at vans. I mean, that are definitely next important things, which, by the way, will also have important or huge impact on the charging infrastructure. If we talk about trucks, if we talk about vans, but that's definitely the next steps that we look at.
Cool. Thank you for this answer. And Pawel, you probably have something to add.
Yes, of course I have, Pawel. Michael, I totally agree with you. I believe that we are in a great point. We are after the biggest outbreaks of COVID pandemics. We did it. We managed to survive. We are growing. There is more and more EV users, EVs on the European streets. So I believe the worst part is after us, and everything. I believe everything is in our hands. So I also believe that the goals which we have are very demanding, and they demand appointing of set of regulations and targets to steer those European member states, companies, consumers in the right direction. But I believe the Commission is and Parliament, especially the European Parliament, is doing a great job. They are adopting common standards. I believe we will soon. These standards will ensure interoperability and coordination and support for the member states deployment and development of electrical charging infrastructure. And while this charging infrastructure will grow, also numbers of EVs on the European streets will also grow. So I believe we did a very good job, and we are on the right pathway to reach these goals. Moreover, in the nearest future, we may expect some new solutions and legal regulations, which will open this electromobility market to the world of tokens and cryptocurrencies. And I'm glad to announce that at this point, NEXITY, together with a partner from our capital group, Columbus Energy, we are introducing to a market a solution which enables tokenization of electricity obtained from renewable energy sources, from photovoltaics. It enable its balancing and enable its further resale, not only to neighbors, but also to every interested entity, as well as to purchase the services of companies from our capital group. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe future is here and future is now, and we are on the right way for this. Thank you.
Thank you for this. I think that Q&A section is also now just like the future, because we have I think several questions right now. So maybe something from David as the questions. Where to look for legal guidance when deciding to enter a new market? Yeah, that's also pretty wide questions to answer. But if you, yeah, just long story short, it will be great. Michael or Pawel? Maybe Pawel.
Okay, maybe I will tell about it, but I believe Michael also will add something from him. When I can say it and tell you about it on my own example, because we are expanding to other markets. And first of all, we are searching contacts with associations which conducts and cares for electromobility in other countries. We are reaching them, contacting with them, talking with them, and very often such associations provides us with different bulletins, guidelines for starting and growing and expanding in the foreign market.
Yeah.
So I think, I believe that's a good way to go.
Yeah, I agree with that, Paul. There definitely industry bodies or organizations or branch organizations are a good starting point. I also have to admit that this is definitely one of the challenges, because it is hard to find single places where you can find all the information on regulations and legislation. Partially, it is EU regulation. Also, a lot of things like the tax issues are not even solved yet. Well, we got a lot of questions about that, but there are a lot of discussions going on, and you can't wait to start until everything is solved. And there is national legislation and regulations. And then you also have the non-directed or the non-legislation parts, which are simply the agreements between parties. So what Pawel is saying is definitely good to start with branch organizations, with organizations like EVRoaming Foundation or other organizations that there are. And then finally, it's also, I mean, if you go to a certain country, try to get in touch with those countries, do good research to it, because also legislation and these kind of things change on a regular basis. I mean, especially if we look at all kinds of incentives, it is very hard to keep track of all that. Yeah, you need to do it also on national level, and on national level investigate the possibilities. I mean, unfortunately, I can't say, well, there's one website where you can find all the information. There are good websites. I mean, if I look at EAFO, and EAFO is the electric or the European Alternative Fuel Observatory, which is definitely can be a good starting point. But then still, you need to look on national level and also maybe on EU level to find the last situation.
Okay. Yeah, I think it clarifies a little bit this thing from for David. Thank you very much for the answer. Maybe something different from the audience. Don't kill me for my pronunciation, but Gaultier asked a question around the mobility service providers market. When creating a pan-European MSP offer, do companies need to create legal structures into every country that they offer access to the charging station in order to manage VAT requirements? Do you have any answers for this? Pawel, you talked about the VAT issues.
Oh, it's a little bit a hard question to ask from the head, and I believe we can provide with proper answer after checking and reading about some interpretations in this regard. But I believe that the proper answer is that it depends. It depends mainly on the place of the taxation. if the place of the taxation is in your country, then I believe you don't need to make any additional entity in the foreign country to provide with your services. However, it is difficult to answer because of this VAT problem, which I said about earlier. And in every country, it must be checked if the roaming and roaming services are considered services or they are considered goods. And I believe in the nearest future we may check the legislations in the different countries and provide you with some information on our blog of Solid Studio.
Yeah,
definitely.
there was the advice from a group of countries, and which was also as guidance adopted by the EU, so not as regulations. So to look at it as selling energy as a good. But lately or recently, Italy sent in a big report with the question to reconsider it and to consider selling electricity for charging stations and consider it to be a service. And that can depend a lot on how you deal with that. The same, what Pawel was saying, where did you deliver the energy? That's also a discussion. I mean, an operator in Poland active in Germany, where does he deliver the energy? So that's another discussion. In general, what I normally advise is that the moment you get considerable volume, reasonable volume, and the question is then what's reasonable, having your own or legal company in a certain country can never harm. When the volume is still small, it's probably too much effort, but it is a delicate discussion, as Pawel is saying. But yeah, I mean, the other option is waiting until the EU agrees, but then you can't do business for the next 2 years, I'm afraid, or 1.5. So, yeah. That's the situation we are all in. Yeah.
Yeah, so the short answer is it depends.
Exactly, as Pawel was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for this. And maybe a question from Morten. Are there any directives being made that you are aware of that will regulate the exception rate for roaming partners throughout the EU? Small EMSPs are getting more and more less changes to roam with large operators, which slows the developments down. Michael, you look like the person who would love to answer for this.
Yeah, it's a bit the open market, and I know where the question comes from because I also hear those issues and I see it. But it is a bit the challenge. Do you want also as EU regulate it? It's a bit what I mentioned. I think that we have the authorities in the different countries who should definitely keep a good eye on valid and honest and open competition and the possibilities for that. But if a certain operator is asking a high fee to an MSP, and it can indeed be that he's a bit maybe blocking or maybe making it more difficult to enter the market for that MSP, but there can be good reasons. I mean, if volumes are low, then it is not really strange to ask a higher fee. But there are difficult discussions. I see it almost on a daily or weekly basis. I get those questions. Can you do something about it? It is hard to do. And I think, I mean, do you want that the EU says, well, there we put a certain cap on it? I mean, what's reasonable? And you get always those kind of discussions. So, yeah, maybe Pawel knows something about it from a legal perspective, but I mean, we do stimulate that companies are reasonable to each other, and I think maybe also branch organizations can play a role that the companies that are connected to that are a member of those organizations ensure a kind of how do you say that, equal playing field, level playing field, so that they say, well, if you are a member, then you need to be comply or apply to do honest business. And I think that's I know where the question comes from, but yeah, it is hard. It's market. Yeah.
Yeah, I get this. Pawel, do you have anything to add to this answer?
Oh, I believe Michael said everything appropriate, and I totally agree with him.
All right. I might freeze just for a bit. Maybe another question for Morten, and all of the remaining questions you can. I will say about this, but you can also ask the question directly via email. So Morten also asked about do most member states consider electricity as a good or as a service? Are any visible trends? I think that this has been covered just a bit previously, but maybe some of you have something to add to this matter.
The only thing I can say, I mean, if companies are interested, there is from the EU VAT committee open information available, and that's the only thing I can say. And there you see that you will see that Pawel is saying also they don't agree yet, but that information is available and can be shared. I mean, that's the only thing I can say about it.
Yes, to summarize, there are those guidelines from European Commission from 2019, according to which supply of electricity is regarded as supply of goods. However, there are a few member states where it is considered supply of service, but I believe mostly it is considered as supply of goods, but it's only a trend now. We need to have VAT directive changes, which I believe will come out in a few years.
Yeah, fully agree there.
All right, guys. Yeah, I think that we are getting straight into the end of our beautiful event. So yeah, maybe I will also share a contact note when it comes to ask some additional questions to our guests, or maybe to some of the guys from my company, Solid Studio. You can write an email and ask any question regarding e-mobility, probably you would love to ask about. And thank you very much for attending this event, all of you. Thank you very much, Michael, for participating. Thank you very much, Pawel. And I hopefully you have enjoyed this just as I. And and I hope that we will see each other soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and goodbye, and see you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.